dominant food system, climate change, deadening soils, nitrates in the water, factory farming, injustice, concentration of wealth. How do we both as individuals and as a community step up and support a living food system which honors the earth? Tune to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. and remember to support your independent farmers.
Hey, it's Patrick. We're about to hit the ground running into the holiday season, and you're probably realizing, like many other people are right now, that your home is not ready for all those people to come over for the first time since, well, last year's holiday season. So that's why it's important to get ahead of the game right now by calling Zero Res over to take care of your carpets, tiles, rugs, and more. Zero Res has a 4.9 rating on Google reviews with over 17,000 reviews. And the Zero Res Gotta Love It guarantee makes it easy to get what you pay for. Yes, Zero Res absolutely stands by every cleaning. This month, get 3 rooms Zero Resified starting at $149. And don't forget your air ducts. You can get $75 off any air duct cleaning this month. Call Zero Res at 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com to schedule your appointment today. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res. With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 45, then sunshine Thursday with a high of 64. Vinaigrette can add the perfect complement to your next home-cooked meal. Taste test their wide selection of oils and vinegars, and they'll bottle it for you right on the spot. Vinaigrette is located at 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis. Check them out at vinaigrettemn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken.
And this is Ghostbox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakken. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on this Wednesday. This is a conversation tonight that I've been looking forward to talking about because it's certainly one that I don't have really any answers to. And I think it's going to be a unique perspective in the way that we haven't really talked about on the program before. And I'm definitely looking very forward to that. I also quickly want to just thank everybody for the feedback we got with having Ernie Pack on last night talking about Fort Knox. That episode is available on ghostboxradio.com. If you want to listen to it, listen to the podcast version of it. We talked about a lot of stuff. We had a lot of fun, and it's worth talking about. And tonight we're going to take a little bit of a switch on that. And this is what I love about this program is that we can really go anywhere and talk about anything. And I absolutely love it. Tonight, my guest, Reverend Brianna Lee, is an interfaith minister, Wiccan priest, and Reiki master whose life has been steeped in mysticism since childhood. Early on, her family practiced energy healing and psychic shielding together, then moved into actively studying spiritual principles as a group. In her mid-20s, she survived a major traumatic event that launched her into studying alternative medicine and spiritual practices from around the world to find the means of true healing. By her early 20s, Brianna was actively assisting in teaching Wicca to others, as well as writing and performing public group rituals. It was then that she realized her passion lies in leading others through transformative ceremony to connect them with their divine source. Over time, she has gained several certifications and ordinations, volunteered with several teaching covens, as well as pagan projects and oriented festivals. Today, she offers healing services, consultation, and group experiences through Megas Books in Minneapolis, as well as making house calls. In addition to healing and custom ceremonies, Reverend Brianna Lee specializes in psychic defense, working with spirits and exorcism. To learn more, please visit animapraxis.com/about. That's ANIMAPRAXIS.com. Reverend Brianna, welcome to Ghostbox Radio.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh my gosh, thank you very much. As we were talking prior to the start of the program, this is kind of an area that I have not gone into before talking about. And we've had a lot of exorcists on the program. And I do want to also say kind of from the start here that we're talking about exorcism, but I think we're going to be talking about it in a very different way. And we're also going to be talking about other stuff as well. There's a lot of things that Reverend Brianna and I have talked about wanting to get through with the program, but I also see this more as kind of like an ongoing conversation that we're going to be having Reverend Brianna on when she'd like, and we can kind of work through more and more of this. So I want to start with just first of all the very basic question, I guess, because I've had on exorcists, but they've all been either part of the Catholic Church or the American Catholic Church, which are two different entities. What is an interfaith exorcism?
So an interfaith exorcism, basically what I'm doing when I'm talking about that is I'm working with people that are in an in-between space. They've maybe left the church. They're not maybe so much about the Christ language anymore. And they're opening themselves up to something else. Maybe they're studying Wicca. Maybe they're studying Buddhism. Maybe they're getting into something else entirely. And they're coming to a place where they're having kind of a crisis of consciousness, because how do they reconcile what their spiritual beliefs are versus what they were, versus what the paranormal phenomenon they're having in their life is bringing to them. So when I talk about interfaith exorcism, I'm talking about looking at what the client, or I'll say client, what the client believes in, what their religious or spiritual views are, and working within that context to help them to not only understand what's happening to them, but to deliver a ceremony or an experience to them that alleviates their situation. And there's all different, we like to fixate on like the really extreme cases, like there's ectoplasm and strings of profanities and whatnot. And because this is sort of in our popular culture, people who are new to their spiritual path or new to their spiritual gifts often mistake phenomenon for demonic or malicious. So when I go in, I'll be like, okay, I offer this service, I'll help. And also, just to be clear, using the term exorcist is really actually quite new for me. Before, I called it entity removal, because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes or kind of get into the whole religious side of the understanding of what exorcism is. But as you look into it and as you look at different cultures, everybody's got practices, whether it's from their holy book, their verses, their rituals, their dances. Everybody's got something to get rid of negative entities. And we kind of conflate, negative entities or negative spirits with evil or demonic. And there's actually quite a spectrum of spirits and spiritual activity. So an interfaith exorcism is basically working within the context of what the person can understand and accept and believe for their spiritual path, to deliver them from whatever is bothering them. It could be demonic in my mind, it might be demonic in their mind, but it might be something else entirely as well. So I'm kind of running the gamut of spiritual experience when I'm talking about that.
That makes sense. And the thing is too, I mean, we use the term exercise as just like a word. Like it's a word. It started as a word. It doesn't mean demonic anything. So
Sure.
When you're calling yourself an exorcist, and because you're removing spirits and you're using that term, it doesn't have to indicate demonic or evil entities. That's
Right.
where I think when you said that to me, that was the light bulb that kind of went off.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that like, and because we have this idea in our popular culture of what it looks like, or it's like the big E, like we don't get out the big guns unless it's the big demons, right?
Right.
And it's not, when you're working with people and you're helping them to understand the phenomena in their lives, you come to realize that it's not, while there are cases of extreme, demonic possession, where there are extreme cases of malevolent entities coming through, it's much more common to have a low level attachment or parasite or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of like demystify it a little bit, because it's like an exorcism literally is removing any kind of negative energy from a person, place, or thing. And it could be an entity, it could be an energy, it could be any number of things.
It could be low vibrational, right?
Low vibrational, absolutely. And and one of the things that I kind of really even got me thinking about it was, as a healer, right? One of the things, when you get into energy healing, they talk about these low level energy parasites that can get into your energy field, block you up, manifest in all kinds of ways. And we're in there removing them as a part of the healing techniques that we've learned. And I'm like, we're doing the work that priests are doing. We're just talking about it differently. And it seems like it's a separate conversation, but it's really not,
Yeah. And, I'm going to ask this question, and I don't expect you to name religions, or it's not about throwing shade on anything.
Sure,
Okay?
sure.
But I have to imagine that certain religions is actually a barrier sometimes to removing some of these entities.
It is, in fact, and part of the reason I wanted to come on is actually to implore people. Like, I work at Magus Books during the day. I offer my services at night, and I see people all the time from different faiths. And I'm like, I can't always help people because I don't always have a firm grasp of where they're coming from. And I'll give you an example. I had a lovely client whose roots are in Libya. And she had spirit attachments that had come through her and been given to her through blood sacrifice. And I was like, whoa, I need to learn a little bit more about that before I try to handle this situation, But I've studied a lot of things, but I have to say that studying the tribal religions of Africa, where that involved the animal sacrifice stuff, I haven't quite got there yet. I'm only on the tip of the iceberg with that kind of information, because for me it's ish, right? I'm like, I can't imagine sacrificing an animal as a part of a ceremony, but there are people that do that. There are tribes that do that. There are people that do that, and I'm not trying to throw shade on them either. No. I'm just saying that stuff does come up that even for me, where I'm like, I love the weird. Like, you don't know who to talk to, come find me a Magus,
Right, exactly.
But I do have my limits, so in that particular instance, what ended up happening, where she had contacted me looking for exorcism, and we ended up having this entire conversation with these spirits. And at the end of it, I was like, look, these are ancestral spirits that were given to you in a ritual way that I'm not entirely familiar with or comfortable with. I can help you get to know these spirits. I can help you understand and work with them. I can give you validation to say it's okay and it's safe to explore your tribal beliefs and your tribal history. But there's limits to what I can do and what I'm willing to do. And that worked pretty good for her. She really appreciated that she was at minimum given some validation to be like, yes, this is happening. This phenomenon is real. And it's okay for me to want to know about my tribal roots. It's okay for me to want to explore that, because she did have a Christian upbringing, and it was very difficult for her, especially also not only being foreign to the States, but also being a person of color. So there was a lot of like fear around racism and persecution and all this sort of thing. And so for people like that, we ended up kind of calling the session a deliverance, because she went from being scared and afraid of the phenomenon that was happening into more of like, okay, these are my ancestral spirits trying to come through, trying to get my attention, and it's okay for me to try to talk to them and understand what they're about, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what I like about it too is that it's not one size fits all. It's a respect for the person who needs help, because I would imagine that whatever their faith is, anyone who comes in to try to help, and I know that they come in trying to help, but if they come in with a different approach that you're not comfortable with, or they're not comfortable with, that's going to be a problem. I mean, because, faith is a very important thing. And yes, whatever is happening, you want to get it removed or exercised, you still need to feel comfortable about it, that what's happening to you, I guess.
Yeah, you do. And, because it's not just a situation where we're doing a removal. It's also like helping you to understand your own path, helping you to understand your own connection to the divine. And yeah, one of the things that I was really thinking about that I wanted to kind of, revisit was when you had Bishop Rita on the show, and somebody asked, well, what about if a atheist needs an exorcism, and the thought process was, well, if you're atheist, maybe you don't believe in this, so you might not have this situation. And as somebody who removes astral parasites off of people's auras all the time, I'm like, low level attachments are very common. So you might have something going on that you don't even know. And in addition to that, I kind of want to tell people, like, your belief or non-belief does not protect you from these mysteries. Okay, these unknown facets of our spiritual experience. Like, not believing in something does not protect you from its influence.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that's one of the things that probably confuses people, and that's what leads to wrong understanding of what's going on in their lives. Because if they don't believe in the first place, and the stigma of what exorcism is, what we understand it as. And I want to ask about this when we come back from break, but also like what Bishop Rita Strugula is doing on television. You got to wonder, that no wonder why people see it only one way.
Right. Oh yeah. Because it's popular culture now at this point, and it's like, but also understanding that, like, because Christianity is like the overarching religion of our society, this is where we look to first. This is where we look to understand the nature of the spirit, whether we agree with it or not. And it's accessible, it's something that we can easily access. Some of this other fringe spirituality, stuff, it's like, who's going to come forward and talk about that and be taken seriously,
Absolutely.
So and mad respect, I loved that episode. I think she's great.
Yeah.
But there are and this is something that really was brought home to me working at Magus, is that people are hungry for leadership. People are hungry for guidance. People are hungry for understanding. And in these fringe interfaith in between spaces, there's not a lot of people. And I actually kind of want to be like, if there's anybody out there watching that is Ifa or Voodoo or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever here in the Twin Cities or elsewhere, please come find me so that we can like work together. Like, I would love to give you clients. I'd love to refer people to you. Like, I'm not here to take everybody, You
couldn't.
I couldn't.
That's exactly how it is. Reverend Brianna, why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead and take our first break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. It's very interesting. We're going to branch it out into different areas. If you have questions for Reverend Brianna and stuff she's talking about, let us know. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950.
Hello, I'm Jody. also known as Witch Jody on social media. I opened Midwest Witchery and Healing in historic Stillwater because as a nurse, I love to help others. When you come and visit Midwest Witchery and Healing, you will find everything from divination and magical services, classes to ritual tools, jewelries, handcrafted candles, witchy gear, and much more. My store is a safe environment for all on their own unique path. Look for the purple door. Find out more at MidwestWitcheryHealing.com.
Feeling like people just don't get the vibrant rainbow unicorn that is your celestial essence? Have you been wondering how you stepped into this infernal, mundane timeline full of muggles, NPCs, and toilet paper shortages? Here at Magus Books and Herbs, we get you, and are staffed with real-life unicorns just waiting to help you rediscover your shine. So come explore your magical side with books, herbs, incense classes, and more at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or online at magusbooks.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Don't drive too fast or you will miss Scott Jamama's Hot Barbecue. Scott Jamama's offers huge taste out of a little place. Located at 3 West Diamond Lake Road near the intersection of Nicollet Avenue and West Diamond Lake Road in Minneapolis, this tiny hole in the wall offers mouth-watering baby back ribs, grilled chicken, and half-pound pulled pork sandwiches. Don't forget to add the potato salad, spicy baked beans, twice-baked potatoes, and delicious desserts. Find their hours and full menu at scottjamamas.com.
You know, I think the real question is, why have I not been to Scott Your Mama's yet?
The mystery on everyone's mind. Why, Greg?
I just don't understand. I love barbecue, and I haven't been there yet. I want to get a group of people to go out there with me, and I know Adam was in. I'm going to see who else can join me on that because I am down for it. That's all I know. And of course, at 10, whatever it is at night,
right.
I'm hungry. And I want some baby back ribs. So anyway, that's me getting that out of the way. We have on tonight Reverend Brianna Lee. She's an interfaith minister, Wiccan priest, and Reiki master. We've been talking about interfaith exorcisms. A couple things I want to kind of talk about, Reverend Brianna. First of all, we had a comment here I'd like to read real fast, and that is. Janet says, so very glad I found your channel. Thank you and your guests for being so informative on various subjects. Shared Halifax, Nova Scotia. So, Janet, thank you. I remember when you found us, and I'm very glad that you haven't left and haven't been scared away. So there is that. My goodness, it is really it's interesting. And one of the things too, I'm glad that we have you on tonight is before the program, I had a couple people reach out and they're like, I'm going to listen, but I'm kind of worried because you're going to be talking about exorcism and stuff. And I kind of had the feeling that we are going to have a conversation tonight that is kind of how it's going right now, that it is a positive thing. It's all about helping. And what I really like about it, and don't get me wrong, I am not, I've have a number of these exorcists on my program, and there are some very dark energy out there. I am not taking away from them. I'm not saying what they're doing is not real. I am 100% invested in what they're doing, but we have to talk more about it. And I like the approach that you're taking on it because it's one that will, I think it's an easier pill for people to swallow, first of all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm like, I came in and out.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Were you thinking? Were you also?
Oh, like I had it, and then it was gone.
Were you also thinking?
I wanted to acknowledge that yes, there are some very dark things out there, and yes, I have experienced some of them. Okay, and I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to take away from other people's work or what they do or the realities or how they look at things. My intention is to come forward and say, okay, there's a lot of different ways to look at this, and there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of things that happen in the spirit world, and even though you might not be experiencing something to the level of profanities and ectoplasm and whatnot, and not to take away that those experiences happen, but maybe try to help people understand what things lead up to that, so that you can start practicing something that helps protect you from going down that road. That's one of the things I'd like to get into, is like understanding where the entry point is and how to protect yourself. Like, that's kind of my whole jam. Like, how do you protect yourself from these things? Like, people are awakening to their spiritual gifts. They're exploring other things. They're going out into the wild, wild west of the spirit world. And there's very few people available, at least obviously, to kind of help them navigate. And there's so many ways in which someone can get an attachment or get a spirit. And it can lead to more dangerous and ugly things down the road that require bigger guns.
So I would say then, right, that this is like almost taking medicine's not quite the right word I'm going to use, but I'm going to use it anyway, where, it's not, you don't take something because you ran into it and you have the problem. You want to do stuff that's preemptive. You want to start now. I would assume that what we're also talking about is, your general demeanor, how you present yourself, and the stuff that you're talking about. I'm assuming that this is something that, you don't have to wait till something bad happens. You can start on this now.
Yes, absolutely. And you should. Like, if you have any interest in the paranormal, if you go out and do investigations, if you attend seances, if you play with the Ouija board, if you read books about summoning spirits, like, before you get into any of that, you need to know how to perform hygiene energetically and protect yourself. And that was one of the things that, during the Bishop Rita show, where she's addressing the atheists, talking about, well, for me to do an exorcism on you, you have to accept Christ into your heart. And if that's not something you're going to do, my exorcism's not going to work for you. And I kind of want to talk about what that means. Yeah. So when we're dealing with the spirit world, the thing that really protects you is your connection to the divine, your connection to a higher power. So if you don't believe in God, as most people understand it, you are tasked with asking yourself, what do you believe in? If you're an atheist and you don't believe in any of these things, understand every spring the trees come back to life. That is a principle that you could probably have an equation for, all right? But it is also a mystery, that rebirth, that life. And that is something that you can identify as tangible, as also being larger than yourself, that you can tap into, that then acts as like your spiritual armor. And that's, kind of what they're talking about is, understanding Christ as an emanation of God. Taking him into your heart is understanding yourself as an emanation of God. And it is that replugging into that divine that protects you and creates your spiritual armor. Okay, so you don't have to believe in Christ. You don't have to believe in God of the Bible, but you do need to believe in something. And you need to really ask yourself what that is before you start delving into the paranormal and the seances and the psychic powers and the rituals and whatever. Because once you start opening up, it's like anything any number of things could happen and come through and become a part of your energy field. You can pick up stuff that you don't even know how you got it or where it came from. And then your contact trying to figure out who can take care of it. And it doesn't need to get to that point.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't help the situation either that you get people who do this. And we may have seen examples of this at the Masonic Lodge event where people, they're looking for the extreme.
Yeah.
They go into it looking for the extreme, and they're, I always find that those, in my mind, and I could be wrong, in my mind, the people who are looking for the extreme actually really don't believe. Because if you're going looking for the extreme, that means you haven't dealt with the realities of what can happen to you in these situations.
Right. And it's a form of thrill seeking, and that is ultimately incredibly disrespectful to the spirits.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do this, if you're going to try to talk to spirits, communicate with them, you have to show a certain level of respect. And going in there with this intention of like, how extreme can it get? How out of control can it get? Really is not only disrespectful to the spirits and the place that you're visiting, but on a certain level is kind of disrespectful to yourself.
Yes.
Where are you coming from? And it's that lack of self-awareness that I think does people in all the time.
They treat themselves like a petri dish.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you brought up that experience, because I was like, oh, I kind of want to talk about that too.
You mean where people are dropping like flies?
Right. Even me, I was like, and I felt really bad. I was like, what should I have done? Should I have like done this or that? And I'm like, so for people that don't know, I attended Greg and Char's paranormal weekend. We investigated the Jasper Lodge. And when I went upstairs, and even before then, we were taking a break and people were starting to feel ill. They were starting to feel sick. There was some weird energy going on. And then when I went upstairs, my group did, I'm just hanging out waiting for us to get started. And this incredible pressure like came over me to the point that not only did I feel nauseous, but I got the shakes. And side note, whenever I'm getting intense energy thrown at me, I get what I call the spirit shakes. Mm-hmm. And Greg here was kind enough to sit with me while I worked through it, trying to orient myself and decide what the best course of action was. And, I had an arm injury. I was tired from the night before. I decided that my best course of action was to just go home and take care of myself. And that's the thing, when you do this work, you gotta, in the immortal words of Kenny Rogers, you gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them, and that night I was like, I'm folding, I'm out.
Now I have to say, for the sake of my business, that they're not all like this.
The night before was great.
Yeah, the night before was fine. But you know what I think, and I'd love your thoughts on this, and we don't have an answer. I mean, Char has given a lot of thought to it. I've given a lot of thought to it. We talk about respect.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, being in the Masonic Lodge, and we got permission from the Masons that currently work there. We got permission to do certain things. Like I took a painting of George Washington and I moved it to the altar because I wanted specifically to try to get him through Spirit Box. We got that from the Mason that was there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's okay, does it?
Not necessarily. And, it's hard to know. I mean, we're talking about intelligences on the other side of the veil.
Yep.
And it can be hard to predict what will or will not upset them. Mm-hmm. And we did preface the group, about being respectful to everything. But we can't know people's inner thoughts, and we can't necessarily know unless we take the time to feel out each one, whether or not somebody brought something with them. But what I ultimately got out of that evening was that the spirits that were there decided they'd had enough.
Very much so.
They were just like, you know what, we're not liking it was either something about, and I don't know that, and I'm not trying to pin anything on any individual, but it could have just been that they decided that they weren't having it, because it is a secret society. They don't allow just anybody in the building, so while on the surface we were trying to be respectful, we can't know what other people were bringing in or thinking. And I think the spirits just decided they were done. And that's that happens sometimes. You just have to be prepared for it and be prepared to say, I'm sorry for disturbing you. We'll leave now.
Right. I think we've decided in the future, Shar and I, we had been there before. We investigated one other time before, just her and I. We really got some stuff, but not a lot. I do think that there is something to be said that they were just like, whoa, okay, there's 30 people here now. What? This is our lodge. I mean, that's kind of really what I've come down with. I have to say, it's kind of funny. Trust me, I mean this as funny.
Okay.
This is because I wasn't feeling great either. I had a big headache. Things happening. I walk you to your car, and you need to clear yourself. Right? We're in your car. You need to clear yourself. And what do? You take out this bell, and you just start ringing it, and it's just echoing within the car, bouncing all over the place. My brains, they're in my head, and I'm just because I understand what you need to do, but I'm just like, oh my God, it's like my head.
So I thank you for bearing with me. I know that particular set of bells is really intense, and actually, I'm blanking on what their name is, but they are actually used by Hmong shamans in the case of exorcism, and I specifically got them as big guns.
Yeah,
and yeah, I had to do. I was like, I don't know. It's going to take me a minute to process. It might be 3 days before I come to a conclusion. Like, I got to clear this out. And those bells are intense. And
did they work? Did they work for you?
They did, to a certain extent. Honestly, just having to admit that I was already tired. It was our second night of investigation. My arm was really hurting and bothering me that night. And also I had eaten kind of a heavier lunch. So I was like, all those things together kind of made me like susceptible, if you will, more than usual. Mm-hmm. And I was still feeling a little off into the next day. So I did have to do some more cleansing work after the fact.
There was, and within our group, it wasn't the next day things were fine either. Yeah, okay. Very much so. Very much so. We learned a lot that night, I think. And I think that's one of the things you can't always figure out when doing these type of events. And these type of events are created in a sense to give people the most value, if you will. Right. Like you said, we were up late the night before. We didn't do really anything Saturday. We started a little bit later Saturday, but still it is a lot. It's an endurance to do these sort of things. And we try to take care of ourselves, but all sorts of stuff happens, don't they? It's just,
it does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. And you have to understand that when you're engaging in this stuff, as you get tired, if you're depleted, if you're not in a fully grounded place, you are more susceptible to the influence of spirits. If they get disturbed or upset by your presence, you're going to feel it even more than if you were well rested and, on top of your health game,
Absolutely. Brianna, I want to go ahead and do this. I want to go ahead, take our next break. Okay. When we come back, there's a lot more we want to talk about. Jared, I see that you have a comment that we're going to talk about here. And anyone else has questions or comments, leave them for us. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AIM 950.
Magus Books, your multicultural spiritual supply store. Stop in and expand your horizons with books, classes, readings, and supplies at magusbooks.com. or in our shop at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis. From the best incense to beautiful statues, we have supplies and books for your spiritual explorations. Come in and chat with our knowledgeable staff and get what you need for your next adventure, whether you're fighting ghosts or opening your third eye. Check us out today at magusbooks.com.
Hello, I'm Jody, also known as Witch Jody on social media. I opened Midwest Witchery and Healing in historic Stillwater because as a nurse, I love to help others. When you come and visit Midwest Witchery and Healing, you will find everything from divination and magical services, classes to ritual tools, jewelries, handcrafted candles, witchy gear, and much more. My store is a safe environment for all on their own unique path. Look for the purple door. Find out more at MidwestWitcheryHealing.com.
If you own a holistic or metaphysical business and are looking to expand, then you need to be listed on MetamorphosisConnections.com. It's a network where you can grow with like-minded practitioners and reach new clients. MetamorphosisConnections.com is an online directory you need to list yourself and your business. Our platform makes it easy for you to create listings of your products and services, and you can also choose to list your classes, events, and so much more. MetamorphosisConnections.com helps you create weekly and monthly promotional ads targeted towards your potential clients and promotes them for you via social media and newsletter. There are clients searching for your specialty right now. Let us help them find you. Start your listing today so you can share your own unique gifts and talents by finding the level of membership that best fits your needs. Let us help you reach your clients that are searching for what you do. Visit MetamorphosisConnections.com and sign up today.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 45, then sunshine Thursday with a high of 64. Hell is empty and all the devils are here again offers a much-needed communal laugh and is in the spirit of radical inclusion. Performances are at the Luminary Arts Center in Minneapolis now until November 18th. Get your tickets at interactcenterarts.org.
And join us tomorrow on Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bach, and we're going to have on author Lester Velez talking about his book, The Unknown Other, an Existential Proposition of Alien Contact. That is going to be a very interesting conversation tomorrow. I am honestly, I'm not 100% sure where that's going to go, but I've been really looking forward to talking with him for a while, and I hope that you all are able to join in as well with that. But we are continuing our conversation with Reverend Brianna Lee, who is an interfaith minister, Wiccan priest, and Reiki master. I'm having a great time with this conversation tonight. We're really talking about some good things that I think that need to be addressed, and we really are just scratching the surface here. So there's a comment I want to read first, and I don't think it even picked up everything. It's more of a book, but Jared wrote, "Hey Brianna, I see that he left off my name. Jared, are you paying by the letter or something when you do this?"
Hey Jared.
So Brianna helped me almost a year ago today with a terrible situation my roommates of the time put me through. They were trying to hex me to death, attach a specter to me, and messed with my life for a week to 10 days, 10 nightmares a day before weakened my mental strength and a few days of crazy happenings around the house with Spectre messing with me. She was able to pick me up and provide me a safe place to stay for a few days while helping me detach. I'm believing he's saying detach from the Spectre. I mean, that sounds pretty serious.
Thank you, Jared, for commenting. Thank you for listening. Yeah, it was a pretty serious situation. He called me and was talking about this experience that he was having, and he didn't really know what to do about it. And so I picked him up and I brought him to my house. I have a temple space in my basement, and so I kind of brought him there so we could do some healing work, help him to kind of detach and get a game plan going. And after hearing his story, I came to the conclusion that what we needed to do was a hex breaking. So I did do a ceremony with him, and then I did an additional ceremony to break up the energy that was being thrown at him, let him stay with me for a couple of days to recover, and then took him back home. And after that, he was able to navigate some things, get out of a situation, move on to a better living situation, better work situation. And it really meant a lot to me. Like, I'm honored every time someone calls me and says, "Can you help me in this way?" Like I can't tell you how deeply honored I am to be able to serve people in that fashion. And yeah, like it was really intense. And there was this concern that this particular group of witches was targeting people who were alcoholic or had issues with recovery. And so it was pretty bad. Some stuff went around the community for a minute talking about like, well, who's done this and who's done that. And, I really hope that, I mean, it sounds like Jarrett's really in a better place now, which is great. And I think he kind of maybe left that comment to just kind of be like, no, this is some real stuff. Like, when we get together and talk about what's going on, it's for real. It's not a game. And that's what concerns me about, like, when we were talking before about the thrill seekers, is that it's like, this is not a game. You need to approach this entire conversation with a sense of reverence. And if you're not approaching it with that, you're opening yourself up for some really bad and nasty things to happen.
I also think too, like with what Jared did there, I think that, it shows real courage to be able to put out there for everyone to hear the situation, because it's not his fault, but it's also tough when you have to say, hey, this happened to me and I didn't know what to do and I had to get help. Sometimes admitting to get help and stuff of anything is, I think it's courageous to be able to
Absolutely.
say so. So I do appreciate, Jared, you putting that in there. And do you know,
Jared. Thank you.
I'm curious, do you know who the roommates who put the hex on him, did they know what they were doing? I mean, I know that they know that they're putting a hex on him, but there's a difference between people who want to do it and they're just like reading about it and doing it, and people who really actually understand and know exactly what they're doing. And I feel like the ones who don't know what they're doing actually might be more of a danger than anything. I'm just curious if you know
what my thought. Well, I mean, so in this particular scenario, what information I received was that there was kind of a ringleader. So there was one person who was the experienced practitioner who was kind of recruiting or egging their friends on into following suit into some of these, I don't know, practices. And yeah, like, people who are new and experimenting don't fully understand the impact of what they're doing. They're simply hoping that impact happens. And that can be dangerous for the target as well as for the practitioner, because you don't know what you don't know, and but the more practiced you are, the more experienced you are, you do become more dangerous.
Yeah.
That is a fact. And but people don't always necessarily understand their impact, no matter what level they are, and or what can happen to them in performing this kind of magic. If it comes back on you for whatever reason, because we broke the hex or sent the energy back, or called upon divine justice, called upon Archangel Michael, like any number of things we could do to handle a situation, you don't know what the repercussion is going to be. Like in Wicca, we talk about the threefold law, which is anything that you put out comes back times 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you set out with a negative intention, you are not immune to the effects of that intention. It's going to come back to you one way or another, whether you will like it or want it or believe it or not.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just kind of curious over here because I have a healing hand, and what I mean by that is like I feel like that I can actually give out energy from it.
Sure.
And I know when, it, and the reason why I even bring it up is because ever since we started talking this last segment, it's really started to like warm up. Like, it really
Oh,
feels like, I don't know why though. I don't understand why.
okay.
Like, it's
Okay.
just weird to me.
Sure. So when you talk about your healing hand, is it specifically through your right hand
It
that
is
you
my right
usually?
hand. Yep.
Okay. Because I mean, that could be like part of you and your inner knowing is feeling activated with this conversation or this
Sure.
aspect of the conversation where you're just like, whoa, I can feel that there's some pain there. I can feel that there's some, shame there. And there's a part of you that's maybe like, oh, I'm getting activated because I want to offer that healing, or I want to offer that protection, or even on some subconscious level being like, now I need to protect myself from anything that might be coming at me.
It's
I'm,
interesting, isn't it?
yeah.
It hasn't felt this way in a while. Moving on though, because I don't want to turn this about me. Tamara
Oh,
Tamara has a comment. She asks, "Can you share?" And we have about 6 minutes left.
okay.
Can you share what you know about hereditary attachments? I mean, the idea of there being entities or attachments that attach themselves to a person, but then follow the family line.
Okay. Tamara, thank you for asking that question. That is a great
Yeah,
question.
that is.
Yes. I will be honest and say that this experiencing hereditary attachments or hereditary demons, my experience of it is relatively new. Okay. Just within the last year, I actually experienced not just for my own family, but in the family of a client that I had. And I've had a couple of clients that have had this situation. And hereditary demons, if you will, can come about in a number of ways. Like, it can be somebody cursed your family at some point. Somebody was into witchcraft and decided they didn't like something about somebody, and they sent a demon or a spirit or whatever to follow them, and then that spirit went on to follow the family. There's also, I do believe that there are spirits that belong to family groups that maybe at one point in time were worked with and were then subsequently forgotten about, and they become demonic because they're not honored, worshipped, or fed in some fashion, and so they start acting out to get attention.
Yeah.
You look like did you want to say something?
No, I'm just listening. I mean, the question I have though about
Sure.
that is, how do you know it's hereditary? Because if you're not, is that mainly like through like word of mouth or something? And then by saying, I mean, from generation to generation, right?
Sure.
And
Sure.
do you actually manifest it if say if it wasn't really necessarily that, are you manifesting it if that's kind of the lore of your family, and that you are talking about it so much that you are you're actually creating it because we manifest that stuff. And before you answer, I just want to say, Jared says, thanks for reading my comment. Sorry I didn't say hi to you. I am just kidding. Just please know that. All right. So what about that, Reverend Brianna?
Okay, so how do we know we're not manifesting a spirit based on the family lore or what we imagine to be true? This is one of those things where it's like I could come up with an answer, but the truth is it could be either way,
Sure.
and let's say for the sake of argument that it is that situation where it's like there's this family lore that there's some kind of misfortune in the family, could be a spirit or a demon or whatever following the family line, and you, by thinking about it and imagining it, have made it real. You also then have the power to dispel it, get rid of it, change it, transmute it. And simply becoming aware of it is power in and of itself. Because once you become aware of it, then you begin to have control over it. And the thing about psychic abilities, I mean, it's subjective. What you perceive versus what I perceive can be two very different things. And we could be talking about or looking at the same spirit, you know? So it kind of becomes a matter of, it doesn't really matter if you imagined it into being or if it's been there the whole time. It's a thing that you now have to deal with.
Sure.
And work through. And I see we're almost out of time here, Greg.
We are. So I have to apologize to Tamara because I did hijack her question where you have
right. But I'm like, let's pick up next time.
Well, and that but
more next time.
Also, how can people get a hold of you so that if they have questions or need your help?
Absolutely. So I am in at Magus Books Wednesday through Saturday. You can find me in the shop. You can call there to call me. I do take consultations, spiritual advisory appointments there. I also take Reiki and Polarity appointments there as well. But if you need something where you need more personal attention, you want it after hours at your house or something of that nature, you can definitely contact me through my website. My email is listed there. I have a contact form there. If you want to shoot me an email before you book a consultation call, you can do that. My email is reverendbriannalee@gmail.com. You're welcome to email me anytime.
That is perfect. Reverend Brianna Lee, what a great conversation. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. And thank you to everyone who commented.
We'll do it again. And thank you. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking more about aliens. Join us. Everyone, have a great night.
Come on, you know it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Progressive